Over the last few years, India has faced a series of reminders that nature and life can change in an instant. One year it's cloud bursts in Himachal or a landslide in Uttarakhand. Another year it's a cyclone tearing across coast or a heat wave scorching entire states. And of course, we all remember COVID-19. The silence of lockdown, the sounds of ambulance in the night, and the fear of losing someone you love. This was not just a public health crisis, it was a psychological one. Every catastrophe, whether it strikes one town or entire nations, leaves behind two kinds of damage. The kind you can see and the kind we can't. We rebuild roads, houses and hospitals. But how do we rebuild safety, trust and peace of mind? When the crisis is over, the world expects survivors to move on. But the human mind doesn't move on that easily. It holds on to the sound, the smell and the memories. Sometimes it heals, sometimes it hides, and sometimes it transforms. So this video is not just about disasters, it is about what happens after. It is about how our mind reacts to chaos, loss and uncertainty, and how over time we can learn to adapt, recover and rebuild from within. So welcome to the human mind after catastrophe. Let's begin with the very first stage, the first 24 hours. In the immediate aftermath of a disaster, the most common reactions are shock and confusion. Let's take the 2013 Uttarakhand floods. Pilgrims at Kedarnath suddenly saw huge waves of water and debris destroying everything. Many survivors later said that they froze, unable to decide whether to run uphill, pray or just stand still. This happens because of the fight or flight response. Explained by psychologist Walter Cannon, when disaster strikes, your body releases adrenaline and cortisol, pumping up your heart rate, sharpening your senses and preparing you to fight or flee. But here's the twist. Sometimes this system gets overwhelmed and instead of fight or flight, people go into a third response called freeze. That's why so many survivors report feeling numb or disconnected. In these first hours, survivors usually show three patterns. One is disbelief and numbness. So people act as if nothing happened. After the Bhopal Gas Tragedy, many survivors described walking in a haze, unable to process their families were truly gone. Second is panic or confusion. Crying, running aimlessly, screaming or making rash decisions. After the Odisha super cyclone of 1999, many survivors ran back into unsafe houses trying to save belongings, putting themselves in even more danger. Or third, there is an automatic survival mode. Some switch into mechanical action. For example, the tsunami survivor in Tamil Nadu later said, "I don't know how I escaped. My legs just kept running." So these are all normal human responses. They are not signs of weaknesses. They are biology. Now what about first responders? In India, this means NDRF, Army, local police, medical staff and volunteers. Their priorities are clear. 1. Rescue survivors. 2. Secure dangerous areas. And 3. Provide urgent medical care. But here's the issue. Mental health is sidelined. For example, during the COVID-19 second wave, doctors worked 18 to 20 hours a day, saving lives physically, but many later admitted crying silently in hospital washrooms. They carry the trauma of seeing patients die despite their best effort. Research in India found that nearly 20% of frontline workers show signs of depression and PTSD during COVID duty. This tells us that even the healers need healing. Now let's test our knowledge. The correct answer to the question is D, fight or flight. This is your body's survival alarm. The brain's amygdala takes over, sending signals to release adrenaline. It boosts your energy for action but shuts down logical thinking. That's why decisions in the first few hours are often rushed and emotional. Once the chaos fades, a new storm begins, an emotional one. Take the Kerala floods of 2018. Families in relief camp reported constant worry. How will we rebuild our home? How will we repay our loans? What if this happens again? The emotional symptoms often include grief for lost loved ones, anxiety about the future, flashback or intrusive memories, and sleep disturbances, often in the form of nightmares or insomnia. So studies show that around 30 to 40% disaster survivors experience severe sleep issues within the first month. This is the stage where PTSD symptoms may occur. So this may be seen as, reliving trauma in flashback, survivor's guilt. They may ask questions like, why do I live but my neighbor did not? Depression, children regressing to earlier behaviors like bedwetting or refusing to leave their parents. After the 2004 tsunami, UNICEF found that children in Tamil Nadu developed a deep fear of water and separation anxiety, even months later. So psychologists explain this with attachment theory. When a child's sense of safety is shaken, they cling hardly to their loved ones. Community support is like medicine at this stage. Think of the human chain in Kerala during the 2018 floods, where villagers joined hand to rescue each other, or relief camps where food was shared equally, no matter your caste or religion. This solidarity reduces isolation. So psychological first aid. Now this is an important topic. It starts off with 3 important principles, which means listen, protect, and connect. This can be given to anybody. Just listen without judgment, provide comfort, and help with the basic needs that can provide short-term relief to a trauma. So a study after the Sri Lanka tsunami found that survivors who received community counseling were more less likely to develop long-term mental illness compared to those who did not. So now let's test our knowledge again. The correct answer is C, survivor's guilt, anxiety, and flashback. The first month is emotionally heavy. The adrenaline has worn off and reality sets in. Survivors don't feel relieved or fully recovered. They often feel guilt, anxiety, and they feel haunted by memories. 6 months later, survivors begin to rebuild life. After the Bhuj earthquake of 2001, families moved into temporary shelters, schools reopened in tents, and slowly routine returned. But trauma didn't vanish. Nightmare and anxiety may still linger. Yet this phase often brings something surprising, post-traumatic growth. So psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun describes post-traumatic growth as positive change after hardship. So it is like finding new meaning, stronger relationship, or even spiritual growth. In India, many tsunami survivors later said, I learned the value of life more. I now spend more time with my family. This is post-traumatic growth in action. So what helps in these 6 months? 1. Counseling and therapy to process trauma. 2. Peer support groups where survivors share stories. And 3. Special attention to vulnerable groups like widows, elderly, children, and displaced family. For example, mobile therapy clinics set up in Tamil Nadu after the tsunami reduced depression and anxiety drastically. At this stage, survivors stand at 2 paths. So one is resilience and growth, where they find new strength and meaning. Or the second path is chronic trauma, where they carry invisible scars into the future. Now, what path the survivor takes often depends on the support and care that they receive. So let's test our knowledge so far again. The correct answer is C, growth after hardship. Post-traumatic growth doesn't just mean forgetting or denying the trauma. It means the survivors build a new strength and find meaning because of what they endured. It's like a tree growing stronger after the storm. Now, if the trauma persists beyond 6 months, it may become chronic PTSD or depression. Now, warning signs may include persistent nightmares and flashbacks, severe anxiety or fear of reminders, struggle to work or study, escape into alcoholism or isolation. In Bhopal, decades after the gas leak, survivors still reported anxiety attacks and nightmares triggered by strong smells. At this stage, professional help is really important. Therapies like CBD or EMDR help reframe and reprocess trauma. Medication may reduce severe anxiety and depression. Support groups provide shared strength, and resilience routines like meditation, yoga, journaling, or exercise, they help maintain balance. In India, institutions like Nimhans in Bangalore and NGOs like the Banyan specialize in long-term mental health support after disaster. Now, a quick guide for helping survivors. Some do's include listen patiently, offer reassurance, respect their emotional and peace, and encourage small practical steps. Some important don'ts include don't tell them to move on, don't minimize their pain, don't spread rumors, and don't force them to relive the trauma. Now, psychological first aid stands on the principle of listen, protect, and connect. It is not therapy, it is human care. For example, after the 2015 Nepal earthquake, Indian volunteers trained in psychological first aid comforted children by organizing storytelling circles and safe play areas. This reduces panic and restores a sense of safety. So, to summarize, 1. Always ensure safety. 2. Provide basic need. Ensure that you give simple but accurate information. Remember to always listen without judgment. Normalize the stress response. Tell them that it's okay to feel this way. And connect to a professional if help is ever needed. So once again, let's test our knowledge. The correct answer is C. Persistent flashback and nightmare. Mild sadness or daydreaming can be normal, but when someone is reliving their trauma constantly for months, it signals PTSD and needs urgent professional help. Emergencies affect both body and mind. Healing is not instant, it takes months, sometimes years. But India has shown us incredible resilience. For example, fishermen in Tamil Nadu rescued thousands during tsunami. Volunteers in Kerala build human chain to save flood victims. Doctors during COVID risked their life daily. These stories remind us that recovery is possible if we stand together. So here's your call to action. Support mental health and disaster recovery. Advocate for psychological first aid training in your community. Encourage survivors to seek help without stigma. Volunteer, donate, or simply listen when someone shares their pain. You don't need to be a psychologist to help. Sometimes being present is enough. So thank you for joining this journey. If you found this video meaningful, please subscribe for more content on psychology, resilience, and human behavior. Share your thoughts on your own stories in the comment, because healing grows when stories are shared. Together, let's build a community where survivors don't just live, they thrive. This is the human mind after a catastrophe, taking an Indian perspective. Until next time, let's stay safe, let's stay together.